Hello and welcome to Useful Idiots Monday Morning, where we go over the headlines and stories and great moments from the Sunday morning shows. Oh, I can't hear Matt.
I think it's
now I can hear you. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we haven't stuck this yet.
No, we haven't. You mean nailed it?
Yeah. We've screwed up the opening every single time.
But honestly, we are doing 100% better than last time when I double tapped the live button, so we just literally
disappeared. Right? Yeah, we're not going to do that here. We're going to. The show is actually going to be here until for the next hour.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Here's what's the over under on them killing the stream again? It wouldn't be over under. This would be odds. I think.
God, even I know that, Gregory. Not really. I actually don't know that. I don't know the difference.
I would say it's 7-1 against.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think that's a good bet.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff to talk about. The shows yesterday were. How would you characterize them? I would say they were not thrilling as usual.
So on brand.
Yeah, so kind of sanctimonious. Also
Very
on brand.
Sanctimonious. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
A
lot of Chuck Toddy and paper beating. We'll see that. We'll get to that.
Right. Shortly. Yeah. Or as Professor Spooner would say, tuck chod.
Tuck chod. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tuck chod. We should start with him. When we do that?
Start with tuck chod. Yeah. Let's do it. Yeah. Meet the press. If it's
Protect
Sunday.
The already vaccinated announced a plan to make Pfizer and Moderna booster shots available to most adults, starting as early as this week. But on Friday, an FDA advisory panel concerned primarily with slowing the pandemic voted against providing boosters to Americans aged 16 and up. Minutes later, though, the panel did vote for Pfizer boosters only, and only for those over 65 or at high risk for a severe COVID infection. All this comes amid the sobering news that the 7-day average of deaths topped 2,000. Though the number of cases has slowed somewhat in recent weeks, a hopeful sign that maybe the death rate will soon fall as well. Still, the mixed messaging threatens the administration's credibility on what is arguably the most pressing issue facing this president. President Biden won't be able to get his agenda passed without getting past COVID. In short, it's a war he can't afford to lose.
Okay, can we stop here just for a second?
A war that we can't afford to lose and one that can't last forever. Yeah.
That seems like, look, we're in the media. Like, so hyperbole is part of what we do.
Right.
But it does seem like that's a little hyperbolic, right?
Yeah. Who the hell is going to get past COVID?
Yeah.
Right. He's like, he can't get his agenda passed unless he can get past COVID. Who can get past COVID? I don't even understand what that means.
Yeah. I'm not sure what he means by that either. It seems like a little bit of it's dramatic even for network television.
Yeah, we should start doing this. Sorry, I cut you off.
Just say like this is something that he can't survive,
Yeah.
Or right.
Or say something hyperbolic and not totally rational, but with the real gravitas and a piece of paper wrapped up.
Right.
Rolled up. Maybe it gives him a superpower when he has that in his hands.
Oh, okay. Are we gonna talk about this now?
Well, sure, because you can see he's already holding his rolled paper in his hands, and how this is a show that he does every week, right? And he makes noise. You can hear it. Listen to him as he goes from there to there. You're going to listen to him start interviewing Fauci. You're going to hear the background noise, and then we can talk about the symbolism of it.
Okay, let's do that.
Just play a couple seconds.
Joining me now is Dr. Anthony Fauci. He's, of course, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Dr. Fauci, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Okay, keep playing a little bit more. Sorry.
And I want to begin with the booster shot confusion. Would we be in this space of confusion if the president hadn't gotten ahead of the science here?
Okay,
well, Chuck,
so the entire time you can hear the papers rustling or being beaten, whatever the appropriate verb would be. And also, he does another Toddism, which is, would we be here if the president had? Can we actually play that last line again? He says
the one where he says,
"Would we be here?"
I see.
But would we be? We can start here. Yeah.
recent weeks, a hopeful sign that maybe the death rate will soon fall
Watch the
as
hands.
well. Still, the mixed messaging threatens the administration's credibility on what is arguably the most pressing issue facing this president. President Biden won't be able to get his agenda passed without getting past COVID. In short, it's a war he can't afford to lose, and one that can't last forever. Joining me now is Dr. Anthony Fauci. He's, of course, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Dr. Fauci, welcome back to Meet the Press. And I want to begin with the booster shot confusion. Would we be in this space of confusion if the president hadn't gotten ahead of the science here?
Well, okay, Chuck, so if you look at
this, what does that mean? Hadn't gotten ahead of the science?
So I think what he's talking about is the administration is saying that we need boosters, and then the FDA is saying that we don't need boosters. Right. Well, we don't all need boosters. Well, there's a lot of stuff to get to here.
Yeah, a lot of stuff to get to. Yeah, we could.
First of all, like the anchor doing something with the sheets of paper that he's not actually reading or using is an ancient cliche in television. Like if you watch Anchorman, it's one of the great Ron Burgundyisms is to sit there and like tap the paper on the desk, even though you either can't read or are not reading the actual script most of the time because you're really looking at an electronic teleprompter display. Although to be fair, it's the same thing that's on the script, so it's supposed to match up. And the idea is that that is to help you not get lost. But tapping it on the desk is a normal thing. Chuck Todd, though, I have to say, I noticed a long time ago that he does this thing where he rolls it up, and he just loves to kind of jack it off.
It's really awful.
Are we the first people to notice this?
We can't. Are we making television history? Mark our words, guys.
Let's ask the audience.
Let's ask the audience. Yeah, find someone else.
Has anyone else actually noticed that before?
Has anyone actually called him out on it? Because they may have noticed it, but if it's not written or mimed, it's not real.
This is virgin territory for us, right? Yeah, we should put up a poll.
We should put up a poll. But just so people know, I understand. Of course, I know that Biden promised the booster shots, and now the booster shots are not being given to everyone. But I just mean gotten ahead of the science. That makes it. Isn't that kind of suggest almost like that he understands the science, or he's getting ahead of the science? I just think that's a weird expression. It means he moved too quickly. He needed to wait for the science to catch up. Maybe I'm being too literal, but.
Well, okay.
And we could just watch it, but.
Well, let's watch for a second.
Okay, yeah, because I know the content, but let's just watch this interaction.
Really, what happened? It wasn't getting ahead of the science. The president and the medical group at the White House said we are planning to be able to roll out boosters essentially for everyone, 16 years of age and older. That was a plan that was always contingent, and every one of us said that contingent.
The rustling paper you can hear this whole time.
Yeah, I know. He's like,
upon the FDA's normal regulatory process, together with their advisors, to make a decision as to exactly what that rollout would look like. And that's exactly what happened. A very competent group of people who advised the FDA deliberated and came to the conclusion that rather than have essentially everyone who's been boosted, everyone who's gotten the regular immunization of 2 shots should be able to get boosted, they made it on the restrictions that you said, 65 years of age or older, or those 18 to 64 with underlying conditions that might make their response to infection be severe, and those who have institutional or occupational situations would make them more risk of getting exposed and infected. So that's a fair chunk of people in the United States. So we look at it as one phase of the.
Okay.
So a producer finally got him in. Like, how many minutes into the stream are we? Like 5 minutes in, the producer was finally like.
Right.
And the rustling finally stops, but yeah.
Right. And okay, well, a couple of things. if you hear what Fauci's saying, he's saying, well, he didn't get ahead of the science. Actually, what happened is, the FDA determined that persons X, Y, and Z are going to be first in line to get the boosters for these reasons, right? And that's a significant chunk of people. So here's the problem with that answer. The problem with that answer is that it's exactly the same as the answer that he once gave about masks, which is, once upon a time, he said, no, you don't need to use, people don't need to wear masks, in the beginning. And the real reason for that, as he admitted later, was that they were rationing them because they didn't have enough, and they wanted to restrict masks and PPE for essential medical personnel at the time, because they were worried that those people wouldn't have enough. So the consequence of not being straight with the public that first time, right? Because they said that they just said to their faces, no, you don't need to wear a mask.
Right.
When the real reason was, we don't think we have enough masks. Right. And we're rationing them, we're triaging them for medical personnel. So what's going on this time is what's actually happening that everybody agrees that we need boosters because, the data show that, or they don't think that, and they're actually telling the truth. Like, in other words, like, door number one would be, well, we know boosters would be a good idea for everybody, and they would probably decrease mortality overall if we were to give everybody boosters right now. However, we don't have enough of them, so we're going to ration them for these groups of people who are most at risk. Right. Like, if it's really hard not to wonder if that's what's really going on here, because they fucking lied about it the first time.
Yeah, and they also, the way he explains it is so weird, because it's like, no, it's not that he got ahead of the science, is that we always knew, like you said, he kind of baits and switches, right? So now it's that it's a significant chunk of people, but that's not the question. The question isn't whether or not a significant chunk of people are getting the booster. It's whether everyone's getting it. So he's like trying to make us feel better by saying, and again, I think that big pharma is bad. I think all of these things should be generic in other countries. It's like a travesty that it's not. But I'm still skeptical of these people. I say to get vaccinated. I was vaccinated, but there's still like a lot of sketchiness. And I get why all these people are like, they don't even know, they're lying to us. Because what is the deal? Like, why isn't he just acknowledging that it's either that they didn't have enough, or maybe it is a cost benefit analysis, but he has to at some point be like, okay, yeah, Biden said that he was wrong. We looked into it. The cost benefit analysis doesn't break down well. But they're afraid, I guess, of scaring people off of the booster if there is any risk.
Okay, so if they take the hit, let's just say that the real reason is that they don't have enough. Yeah. Right. Or they're not prepared for this, and they don't have enough booster shots ready to deliver. And if they were to come out and say, well, we got to ration them, we're going to give them to people who are over 65 first because we just, we weren't ready. We screwed this up. Right. And, all of these companies didn't produce enough of these boosters, or we didn't buy enough of them, or whatever it is. Then they would take a political hit for being the richest country in the world and somehow still not having enough of these shots ready. But the alternative of getting up and saying, no, we have exactly the right number. It just so happens that only categories X, Y, and Z need the shot, and we're gonna do this rollout gradually, and it's a big chunk of people, and don't think it's we're leaving anybody out who needs a shot. It's impossible not to wonder. Like, I've had the shot twice. It's been more than 6 months now, and I read the stories about the declining effectiveness of the vaccine, and I start to think, well, why don't I need a booster now? Like what's what's the deal? Like, I don't understand it. And what Chuck Todd was saying as he was jacking off the paper and talking about the contradictory information is true, which is they're sending out two signals at once. One is you desperately need the vaccine because it's so effective in preventing death. And, boosters are a thing, and we probably all do need them. And then the second thing is, well, only some of us need them.
Right. And he doesn't even, and he won't admit to which one it is. And he won't even admit that there's anything. Like, that's what I guess kind of gaslighting about it is he's kind of saying like, no, we always said this.
Yeah, we always never, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those like
that a chunk
quadruple
of people,
negative.
Yeah. So, and then Chuck Todd doesn't really know how to push back that well. In fact, if you keep watching, can we watch a little bit more?
Mm-hmm.
Rollout. So I understand why there might be confusion, because I think people were not understanding the difference of planning for something and actually what element of that, what proportion of it you're actually going to roll out. And that's exactly what happened.
So the confusion is not if it's about boosters, it's when. So what you're saying is it's inevitable we're all going to get boosters if you've been vaccinated, but maybe it's not going to be on the timeline of 5 to 8 months. Maybe it's on a timeline of by the end of the calendar year.
What does that mean?
Chuck, I believe as a scientist who's been following it, that ultimately the real proper regimen will turn out to be the original 2 shots plus a boost. But you want to do that according to what the data tells you, including the risk-benefit ratio, particularly for the younger people who do not generally get as much severe disease as the elderly and others. So I believe that there's a good chance that as we get into the coming months, into the next year, that you will see the data pointing to the benefit of having a much broader blanket of people. We don't know that for sure now. And that's the reason why data are going to continue to come to the FDA, and they're going to continue to evaluate it.
Is this if we didn't have the supply, if we had a more limited...
First of all, I don't trust the guy, because within one sentence he says data and data. Which is it? Which is it, Fauci? But also, again, he's talking out of both sides of his mouth, right? Now,
of course,
now it's a risk. Now it's a cost benefit analysis, and we don't know if the benefit outweighs the risk for young people.
Right.
So they don't,
which incidentally is completely contradictory to what they're saying about the vaccine generally for young people.
Which is that it's safe to do it now.
Well, that we must do it. Like they got to settle on one message.
Yeah.
And all this is becoming very, very difficult to follow what they're trying to say about the vaccines, because. Well, just to take an example, like so you had Biden's original speech about the vaccine mandate, where he in one breath he says, well, your chances of being hospitalized if you have the vaccine are 1 in 160,000, so that's awesome. And then like within a second he's saying, well, the unvaccinated are killing the vaccinated. Well, how is that the case if the vaccine is so effective in preventing, right? So there's that. But then in here, there's the additional thing where, okay, the vaccine, its primary benefit is that it prevents death, but theoretically it also prevents sickness a little bit, right? Like there are breakthrough infections. So the idea is that it does prevent you from getting sick to a degree.
It prevents you from dying, basically.
It prevents you from dying, but there is an element of protecting you from actually even getting it in the first place. Getting it in the first place. You're far less likely to get it.
Right.
So what is this? Isn't there a societal good theoretically to having everybody get their booster shot?
Yes. But they're saying that the focus should be everyone getting that. Later on in this, he's saying the priority should be getting everyone vaccinated. And maybe that's what they don't want to admit, that's what they're still focusing on, because they haven't done that. I mean, they are saying we have to do it, but they also maybe don't want to highlight how much they haven't succeeded. It's like that weird fine line where you want to implore people to do it, but maybe again, because you do have people like Chuck Todd where every single move of the Biden administration, I mean, it's hard to report on this stuff, I think, because there are so many unknowns, but you can't really admit that without the media then attacking you on it. And sometimes I wonder, like, but Biden's such a hyperbolic black and white, non-nuanced, kind of full of it speaker anyway. He really doesn't.
Well, yeah, he has two notes. He has sort of gentle, not gentle, his kind of hushed, awed before the patriotic splendor of America tone, right. And then he has angry, right? Yeah. And he's always he in his speeches, like a feature of his oratorial style is that he works himself up into like the anger part during times when what he's saying doesn't match anger at all, right? But with this whole vaccination mandate message, and they've clearly made an emphasis out of being angry about people who haven't gotten the shot, which to one degree I understand, but to another degree I think is totally ineffective. But
well, that's the thing. I think it's actually probably counterproductive, even though I get it. I think it probably is. I mean, it's a lot of the contempt. We were talking about this with Chris Hedges. Oh, by the way, you're definitely going to want to be Substack subscribers if you aren't already, because Chris Hedges talks about the vaccine in our Substack only. There you go. Mm-hmm. But like we were talking about this, there is a real classist contempt that's evident in the way the vaccine is discussed. And again, even if you want people to do this, and even if you think they're selfish for not, you can't really say that if you're trying to convince them.
Yeah, it doesn't, like, if you get on television and you say if you don't get the vaccine, you're stupid, and you're gonna kill people. Like, what are you trying to accomplish there? Like, for me, the only thing they could possibly be going for is a political benefit.
Or you think you're guilting people into it. I mean, I don't think it works that way, because it doesn't work. Right, because think about it. If I'm someone who hasn't been vaccinated and I haven't been vaccinated this entire time, right, then I'm now supposed to accept the framing of this person who's making me into a bad person, right? So I'm not going to want to do that. So the easier way to deal with that is just say that they're a bad person, not me. So it actually probably, now I'm not against them. I don't think I'm against some of the mandates, but I do think that the phrasing of it should be better. The rhetoric around it, if your goal is getting people vaccinated. We should look at, I wonder if anyone's done studies about this, like the likelihood of getting it based on how it's phrased. Like if they're shamed into it versus if they're persuaded. I mean, I'd think that the persuasion thing would be better.
Yeah, you would think, but yeah. And beyond that, it feels to me like they don't know on a daily basis. They don't know what the message should be about a lot of this stuff. Yeah. And then that rather than cop to their lack of total understanding of the situation, they're confidently coming out with takes that, turn out to be like an accumulation of confused and sometimes contradictory messages. Overall, it feels to me like the better thing to do would just be to say, this is a new disease. We've never encountered it before. We have the world's best scientists working on it. Yeah. Like we're taking our best shot at trying to come up with a solution. And
you emphasize how many lives have been, right? Then you can emphasize, we've been able to prevent X number of deaths, we think. Look at how much better, look how many fewer people, how many fewer people, how many fewer persons, right?
How fewer people,
I don't know. Anyway, mad less people, are dying from this. There are ways you can boost, so to speak, the good news, but it is a hard line to walk. But I think ultimately if they owned not knowing, they'd be less full of shit. But I do get the fear of owning not knowing, because I hear so many people being like, they don't even know the answer. They tell you one thing one day and another thing the other day. But maybe since they're doing that anyway.
Well, but the thing is, the public is going to punish you worse for that if you have contradictory messages and you're sanctimonious and accusing. Yeah,
exactly.
At the
right.
same
if you were
time,
just
you know what I'm saying?
Humble, but like you have to walk that line of humble, but also not placating, assuaging, calming down. And I think they can do that. I think they can. Maybe, for next Monday, we're going to come with some talking points for the administration.
maybe we'll come up with a list. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
People compare SARS coronavirus to coronavirus to a flu, but it's a cold. Colds often mutate, which historically was the reason for not producing a cold vaccine.
Okay. I have no idea that that's true, but we don't endorse that.
Someone else said that you looked beautiful and refreshed this morning, Katie.
Wow, thank you.
That was another comment.
Was it a super chat?
No,
you don't need the super chat. It's okay. We'll still take that. Yeah, thank you. I'm feeling very tired, so that's good to hear. I just sent an emergency text for a friend to bring me a coffee, but I don't think she's. Does that make me sound like a dictator? Really spoiled. Once you're in front of the camera, you can't move. I'm a hostage. I'm a hostess hostage.
It's true. You got to just sit in place.
Someone has a question. Are you guys just straight shills now? Well, that's pretty presumptuous. You don't know what our sexual orientations are.
Are we non-binary shills?
Yeah, you don't know that. Queer shills, maybe.
Yeah.
So please,
Are we straight shills? No. What is this about the vaccine?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
I do get paid by Fauci mails me gift certificates to the Olive Garden every time I say something good about the vaccine. Sorry, is that Italian phobic?
Right. And he's Italian, isn't he? Fauci?
Oh, of course. Fauci. Yeah. Are you kidding? There's only two ways you come out with that accent. Let me tell you something. You're either my people or you're Italian. And he's not happens to not be Jewish. So don't be fooled by the doctor thing, guys. Italian, they do make Italian doctors.
They do make Italian doctors.
They do come in Italian.
They always have very impressive arm hair.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. We should do a deep dive into Fauci because I think he did some shady stuff, and I think we need to go explore that, and then we'll have more cred with the people who call us shills. Not that that's why we should be doing what we do. We're not responding to people who call us straight shills, but it would be an interesting thing to do. I feel like we should do that.
Yeah,
but we don't have to make booking decisions live in front of
the cult of Fauci is also an interesting media phenomenon. But that and we can get into that because that's something that we've seen happen, and with other figures, like with Mueller, for instance, right? Like it's just like a media reflex that's become ingrained, of late. All right, so we should move on. There were a couple of other things that were interesting yesterday. One was sort of inappropriate laughter. We have a couple of instances of that. Should we roll the first one?
Yeah, let's roll the videotape.
Quickly, as a doctor, there's going to be a massive gathering in New York City for the UN General Assembly this week. Are you concerned it'll be a super spreader event?
Well, I sure hope not. We've had enough of those, haven't we? I hope people are taking this with appropriate seriousness as far as vaccines and mask wearing and not doing silly things, gathering indoors with masks off amongst people who are unvaccinated or even people who are vaccinated, since we know they could also be breakthroughs and can be passing it along. So yeah, New York, let's pay attention here. We're in the midst of a Delta surge. It is not a safe place to throw caution to the winds.
I like it. Okay, go. Yeah, you go.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, you go.
So this is, by the way, this is the NIH director, Francis Collins, and
National Institute of Health.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I guess if you've been working at the NIH and this is your daily life is trying to deal with an out of control pandemic that basically has nothing but disaster for almost any bureaucrat who works on it. I guess you should be allowed to do a little bit of gallows humor, but laughing, in response to super spreader event and stuff like that. I don't know. I guess I would do it too, probably.
Well, I don't feel like that to me is like, it's almost I don't know if it's gallows humor, but it's almost it's fatalistic. It's fatalistic, right? So I think like, it's just like, oh God, for the love of God, for Christ's sake, we need some Jewish versions of that, but we'll get to that later. He seems defeated.
Right.
And but I find him endearing. I don't know anything about the guy. I should look into it. Hopefully he doesn't have
It's a good mustache too.
It's a good stash. It's an honest stash. You know, a lot of people can't do that mustache because they look dishonest, but he's so wholesome.
I think it's very like middle reliever mustache. And I know that doesn't mean anything to you, but I like, you know, it's the relief pitcher who comes in the 6th and 7th inning has a mustache like that. And,
yeah, you need that kind of energy.
Yeah, I think so. I think so, definitely.
But it's not offensive as we'll see the next. There are other laughters that are much more offensive.
Right. But, for Abraham's sake. Yeah.
For Abraham's sake. That's a good one. Yeah, thank you for that. DC,
yeah. Yeah. All right. So should we see the next?
Yeah. If you thought that laughter was inappropriate.
6 drones.
Who is this? So let's introduce this. This is this is Face the Nation. This is a CBS correspondent for
it's David Martin.
David Martin, who's national security correspondent, CBS News senior national security correspondent. David Martin. Yeah.
Aid worker is who they killed, who had no ties to ISIS.
It was just a horrendous mistake, and nobody claims it was anything but that.
Well, they kind of did it.
It happened in the context of a terrorist attack just a few days before. Communications intercepts telling them there was going to be another terrorist attack and that it was going to involve a white Toyota Corolla. And this aid worker just happened to be driving a white Toyota Corolla. And as he drove around Kabul, just going about his business, at the same time, the drone operators are hearing these intercepts talking about a white Corolla. And so each one of his entirely innocent stops becomes suspicious to them, especially when they see him loading containers into his trunk. They thought they were explosives when they ordered the strike, and after the investigation was done, of course, those containers held water, which he was bringing home to his family because his home was without running water. I mean, it was just the final debacle of the Afghan war.
Okay. Like,
this is someone has it right here. Where is it? Telling it. This is telling it like a cute anecdote and not an accusation of murder.
Or and I have to cop that to the fact that I've done this before, where I've
followed someone in the wrong car and killed them.
No. Where I've characterized, I've done the inexcusable journalistic cliche of saying, like, you know, we blundered into Iraq or something like that, right? Like, this is characterizing things as, you know, incompetent mistakes,
right?
And
glitches instead of features.
Glitches instead of features, because this is worse, right? So you know, he's saying, no, God, it's just bad luck. You know, he was driving around in a Toyota Corolla, and you know, the drone operators, they were looking for a Toyota Corolla, and we just had a terrorist attack. Like, which one is he talking about, by the way? I'm not sure. I
think,
but it's not
the airport,
right? But it's not like this isn't in the context of a decision of highly dubious legality to authorize this lethal action, right? Or targeted killing program that goes back to 2000, and I think it was one when they changed the rule, and you know, they have no real process for making this decision. It's the same kind of thing that made us look like monsters back in the Vietnam years when we had the Phoenix program, right? Like this, just because, like, you know, we claim that we have really good technology that prevents mistakes from happening, which is completely untrue, and he obviously knows that, having worked over there, because we've had thousands of errors, including lots of children. But this idea that, we just had the data we had, you know, we were looking for a Corolla and he was putting something in the trunk. So what can you do? Like,
what are you gonna do?
as if that's an excuse for anything. You have to go all the way back and think about the whole context of the decision, which is just insane. Like you can't just have somebody sitting in a room 3,000 miles away saying, "What do you think, guys?
Right.
Do or don't do?" Okay, like that.
Right,
you press a button.
Right.
Like,
yeah, I mean, you just think about it. Like, imagine if this had been an American citizen.
Right.
You wouldn't be able to just blame the technology. And it wouldn't be, yeah, right. Toyota Corolla, exotic car, very rare. But like you're saying, it's systemic. This is like drone warfare, right? As we do it, as we know it. And this is just one that we happen to find out about because there's a lot of eyes on Afghanistan right now because he also was an aid worker. There's so many times when we don't even hear about it, or if we do hear about it, no one clarifies who the person is, and they're not like the face of like humanitarian aid.
Right. And like we talked about in a previous episode, like for instance, they'll say they were trying to kill somebody, a high-ranking Al-Qaeda official, or somebody implicated in 9/11, like al-Zawahiri.
Right.
And they'll miss and they'll kill, a dozen people, including, a bunch of children.
Right.
And what you'll get in the news is, X number of militants dead. And then you'll find out years later, if somebody bothers to re-report what the local accounts of it,
damage. Yeah,
right, yeah, like what I mean, like and they never make news out of that, and
and it is because they don't actually. I mean, part of the reason that they do that is because they don't actually care that much.
No,
like
of course
there'd be more
care.
Caution that went into it if they cared.
Right, they don't care because the only people who are going to flip out about it for the most part are in that country.
Yeah.
And but the short-sightedness of that is just so nuts because it's like, just imagine if another country did that to us, right? Like, oh, well, we were looking for the person who was threatening Germany, who was driving a Ford Aerostar and
putting something into it.
And putting something into it. And it just so happened that we instead killed a family of 11 who lived 3 towns over, who had nothing to do with anything. And, sorry, but, we took our best guess because, we saw a Ford Aerostar. Can you imagine what the reaction would be in this country if something like that happened on a regular basis? Like people would be lining up to go invade that country, whatever that country was.
Someone said Biden has this as Biden wanted blood, which I think is true and really disturbing, and that they needed that PR story.
The PR story of striking back.
Striking back. Yeah.
Yeah, and the way that we valorized that whole process has been so gross. Like I remember watching. Remember that movie, The American President, the Rob Reiner movie?
Yes.
Where
Michael Douglas,
and he agonizes over this idea of like, oh, we're gonna hit, the intelligence agency of, I think it's Egypt. I forget what country it is in the movie, right? And he's so concerned about hitting civilians, and he says, pick the time of the day where there's least likely to be support staff working in the building, right. And he's pacing through the halls because, oh, I just made a decision to kill some janitor who didn't do anything, and isn't that horrible? But it's necessary to make a show of force, right? And this was supposed to be like presidential, like the whole point of the scene is like that's what being a president is making these decisions to kill people. And we've normalized this to the point where, I don't know, we could go on and on about this, but it's just infuriating. Yeah,
it is really infuriating. Yeah, awful.
Yeah.
All right, next should we go on to, speaking of normalizing, what's our next thing that we're looking at? But no, really, it is terrible, and the fact that that's just the thing that's supposed to be the good thing to do after an attack. It's also like, why do they hate us? Even if it got the person who is responsible, what does that achieve?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I guess, yeah. Okay. You neutralize someone who's doing that. Sure. So, but, yeah.
But even in the context of that, like, what are we talking about? We're talking about somebody who's attacking a foreign occupier.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Right. As you said that. Pilger, we should have Pilger on. Pilger calls it, where's that quote? Pilger calls these movies invader guilt movies. I thought he was saying moves, which I would say are the invader guilt moves, but that would be the opposite. Forget it. So the movies thing stands. I let that stand. But yeah. Donnie Darkletter. I always feel safer when random innocents are killed. Right.
Yeah. No, it's, and we always do this. Remember there was the report about the assassination plot involving Saddam Hussein against George H.W. Bush. So I think it was Clinton sent a bunch of cruise missiles into Iraq, and because we couldn't let that go. Right.
Was that also because of Monica Lewinsky?
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh no, that was like a pharmacy in Sudan. Maybe that was that.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It's ridiculous. But this idea though, you just can't let stuff go because that would be, it's
capitulating, ridiculous. Submitting. Yeah.
Yeah. But
how many innocent? We've killed enough guys. Look, Biden, just point to all the other innocent people we've already killed as like a preemptive payback.
Right. Yeah. We're already far ahead on that ledger.
Yeah, we're already far ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Should we? I guess we should look at the Bill Cassidy thing just quickly.
Yeah.
All right.
Let me start with Anthony Gonzalez's retirement. Him walking away from politics, is that good or bad for the Republican Party?
Anthony is choosing his personal priorities. You read his statement, it stands for itself. But I think you have a broader question there. The broader question, frankly, is do Republicans continue to relitigate 2020, or do we look forward with a positive agenda? If we relitigate 2020 over and over again, it won't change the result in 2020, but we're sure to lose in 2024. On the other hand, if we have a positive agenda which addresses the fact that the Biden administration is in disarray, whether it's inflation, the border, Afghanistan, then the country will win and we'll win. But if we choose to be bullied, we'll lose.
You agree with Congressman Gonzalez, who calls Donald Trump a cancer for the country?
Politicians, he's really speaking about the Republican Party. Politicians are not victims. Politicians make a choice. If we choose to look forward, bringing positive solutions to the American people who have needs, we win. If we choose to be bullied, we lose. Let me put a point on this. My state has been hammered by Hurricane Ida. I have communities which have been completely destroyed. Now, if you go back there, you're going to find somebody who, they feel strongly about the election in 2020. What they really feel strongly about is rebuilding their community and building the resiliency so that this doesn't happen again. Now, if we meet that person's needs, Republicans will do well in 2024, 2022. And if we don't, they'll look elsewhere. Let's meet their needs.
So a couple things. One is this a senator or is it Bill Hader, or maybe both? Unclear. Have we ever seen them in the same room? That's a good question.
Nah. Yeah.
But like, it's really scary. Can we just put up his face again, Wilson? I just want us to be able to
start
see
with
his face while we see this.
Anthony.
So this is a guy who he's becoming like the positive face of the Republican Party at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like, and talking about how you got to look forward, which is a weird, scary moment given how diabolical the guy looks. Although now that I'm saying that, all I can find are these freeze frames of him looking kind of relatively wholesome. But basically, this what would you call? I mean, I know what Trump would call him, a rhino. What do he call Gonzalez, who the congressman who retired? This is a symbol of decency and civil Republicans retiring. There we go, Joker. There he is, Joker-fied. Barely have to do anything to Cassidy to get him to look like Joker. But he won't say anything negative about Trump. He looks like there's some like hostage video energy to this, right?
Yeah, it's funny. It's a reverse Democrat, because
yes,
when you ask the Democrats about anything, they immediately flock to Donald Trump this, Donald Trump that, and he's Satan, and and they'll go on and on and on. Whereas basically what Cassidy's doing is saying, well, let's leave the Trump question aside, and as long as we do a good job on the issues and help the people and do all these other things, then the Republican Party is going to be fine, which is a total non-answer, right? Like on the one hand, but amusingly and ironically, it's what the Democrats should have been doing the last 5 years instead of bitching about Donald Trump. But it's also inappropriate probably for somebody like Cassidy, because they do have this Trump issue that they can't just talk around it forever, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Like
it is interesting.
It seems like the Republican members have two different strategies for dealing with Trump. One is to go completely nuclear on him and start saying things in the hope of falling in the laps of the kind of mainstream, sort of DC Beltway blob approval, right? Which is what happens. If you pull a Bill Kristol and start going after Trump, then suddenly you'll be welcomed everywhere. You'll get, you can be hired at any think tank. You can get lots of speaking money, blah, blah, blah. But then there's another group of Republican politicians who figure, if I say anything against Trump, I'm never going to win a primary again. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to dance around that issue. And, I don't think that really works either. So.
No, but that's actually a great transition to our next clip, which is another one from Meet the Press, which is from a panel with Meet the Press, where this is the other way. Unless I don't mean to cut you off on this one.
No, let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, this is another Trump, how to deal with Trump suggestion.
We're not going to let.
Organized. So one of the challenges that
the Biden
one of the challenges is that people are starting to see the child tax credit hit their bank account. They don't. I do think that this is where the Biden administration, I think, really needs to wrap themselves around, and the Democrats need to wrap themselves around and learn a little bit from the recall, in the Newsom recall, and that is, yes, right now Biden may have had a tough week, but it is an asymmetrical conversation between him and what Trump represents. Mm-hmm. Talk about the abortion bill. Talk about Larry Elders and his totality. It's the antithesis of American values. And that's where they need to lie about, because we right now are talking about policy.
Okay, pause that.
We are right now really living
that's where
in a cultural.
Pause for a second. Sorry. She goes, that's where two things. One is someone's asking, the reason, just to back up, the reason that Chuck Todd is asking about the Cancer on Society is because he's quoting Gonzalez, just so people know it's not like as quite as interventionist as it may seem. So that clip was in response to a congressman announcing he was stepping down, and he called Trump a cancer in society. But in terms of this, just scroll back a couple of seconds. She says something interesting here, just like 5 seconds. Check out
it's the antithesis of American values. And that's where they need to lie about, because we right now are talking about
that's
policy.
That's where they need to lie about?
And I think that's she's probably trying to say something like that's where the conversation needs to lay.
Okay. I know she's not. Yeah. Okay. Keep going.
Right now, really living in a cultural war of what is the heart of America. And that is where the Biden administration really needs to lean into.
What you're saying is Biden needs a foil. No, I mean, I've joked that, when Biden comes out for Facebook and Twitter asking President Trump to get back on, in some ways.
Right. But you don't want him on. I know. Because otherwise the rally yesterday would have been so much bigger.
That's true.
Right? Like that was.
But it did give Joe Biden's numbers go up when Donald Trump is in the news.
Yeah, but you're not going to have Larry Elder running everywhere, and everywhere is not California.
Apparently, Biden's going to be traveling less.
Okay, so we can stop it there. So I think that's interesting for a couple of reasons. One is that she just very openly says it's good he's not on social media, which there's an argument for that. But I think that the fact that everyone at that table kind of agrees, although we don't know what the guy from the National Review says, Rich Lowry, we don't know what his thoughts on that are. But she's like, well, we don't want him on Facebook or Twitter, even though he may be helping Biden's numbers, because then more people would have been at that rally on Saturday. And Chuck Todd's like, that's true. And I don't know exactly how to talk about this because I'm not objective at all. And I obviously don't like Trump and the rallies that he promotes. But it's just such a, like, they're not pretending to have any objectivity.
Yeah, I'm less conflicted about this. Like I'm completely against taking politicians off social media.
Oh, well, no, I'm not conflicted about that part. I'm conflicted about how you describe Trump and the protest that he encourages. Sorry, just to clarify, I'm against it.
Right, right. But the way that, like, that sort of mainstream media figures assume that this is an unchallengeable position. Like, of course we have to do this because otherwise, like, this X, Y, and Z can happen. It's, first of all, it's not our job to worry about the consequences of things like that. And secondly, this idea that some gigantic tech company can just willy-nilly decide to take somebody off the internet, that should bother people in the media most of all.
Right. Like, but as we've seen, it never does.
It never does.
Trump world, yeah.
In the post-Trump world, they assume that this is going to be, it's always going to work out for them. And it's and you can only imagine what people who live in flyover states and maybe are Trump supporters or Republicans or independents, what they think watching that, watching the unanimity of all these people in Washington sitting around agreeing that, oh yeah, of course we have to take these people off social media. Like there's no question about that. Meanwhile, there are people there are dictators in foreign countries that are still on social media. Like, I don't know. It's such an incredibly bad look if you don't agree with those people, wholeheartedly.
Well, it just shows how much they've kind of leaned into being a liberal Fox News. I mean, except that they also have towed the Republic. I mean, they're liberal Fox News. No, not even liberal. I don't want to say that. They're like resistance Fox News.
Yeah, the resistance Fox.
They're resistance Fox. They're resistance Fox. Yeah. And their stuff is like in some ways more insidious because it's not quite as over the top in its non-truths. Or in this case, I don't know if it's this case isn't a non-truth. This case is like consensus, unanimous. It's consensus presented as neutral facts.
Right.
As opposed to ideological.
Right. Which is, well, actually, that we might as well just play this Brian Stelter clip because that kind of it's a segue into that because Brian Stelter did a straight to camera speech at the beginning of his show where he went into this whole thing about the lies of the other kind of media, and it was just so interesting given the almost exactly similar format of his own channel, but maybe we could just listen to the beginning of this.
The political tactics that are causing so much chaos. It's a three-parter: lie, rinse, and repeat. And
I just ate a half gallon of ice cream listening to you guys. Excellent.
Let's start in California, where the recall
was
an example of lie, rinse, and repeat. Fox and other GOP promoters acted like Larry Elder had a real chance to win. They swore that Californians were desperate to dump Gavin Newsom. Some right-wing talking heads lied about voter fraud, and someone even set up a website calling the election rigged before the election even happened. But then, when the recall failed, predictably, Fox just made excuses and quickly moved on, like the GOP was determined not to learn any lessons, and thus may be destined to repeat the same mistakes. The even further right channel, One American News, pretended like Newsom didn't win. They pretended like the recall result was a mystery until I called them out on Twitter. And some of these shows still portray Elder as a winner. I guess just for trying. I guess it's like a participation trophy. See, lie, rinse, and repeat. Don't expose the audience to a reality-based point of view. And if it accidentally happens, if the truth slips through, you know what these channels do? They cut it off. This actually happened in prime time on Newsmax this week.
We know the Trump's administration's efforts here were fairly weak, that they were trying to limit the number of people that would get out. And so there was coordination problems.
Joe, I'm gonna cut you. I'm already weak. I'm already low on time, Joe. Cut him off, please. Cut him off now. Cut him off now. You're not going to blame this on President Trump on my show. That's not happening.
Cut him off now is a useful summary of the pro-Trump media's approach to inconvenient information.
Wait, literally, hold on. This is so funny.
I know.
This is literally on the heels of
the Durham probe. That's the investigation into the origin.
Pause a second. This is on the heels of liberal MSNBC saying it's good he's not on email. It's good he's not on social media. Cut him
yeah,
off.
and in a larger sense, this is a channel, his channel and MSNBC and all of them spent 5 years not having a single person challenge any of their reporting on the Russia stuff.
Right.
And they're going to get sanctimonious about cutting off people who have an opposing point of view.
Yeah.
Like they don't
They
don't have anti-war people on.
Yeah.
They have basically become, a political vehicle that only has. They will occasionally have on somebody who superficially represents the other side, which is the only other acceptable brand of thought, which is Republicans of a certain type. But they won't have anybody on who's a Green or a Sanders supporter, even. Well, I guess they'll occasionally do that now,
but they're pretty hostile.
But they're pretty hostile, and they have a long track record of just freezing out people who criticize certain things, like they're reporting on
the FBI's
Bountygate. Anyway, it's
sorry.
Probe.
Sorry, I meant. Do we want to keep playing?
Let's just play this for another minute here.
Into the origins of the FBI's Russia probe. In and around Fox News land, the Durham probe is a very big deal. Guys like Sean Hannity have been hyping it for years, promising it would knock the socks off the deep state. But it's basically been a total bust. Poor Sean. Quoting CNN's Caitlin Polantz here, the cases Durham has brought, they were both false statement charges, so accusations of lying, have focused on peripheral characters, flubbing details that would not have altered the main focus of the Russia investigation, which, as she reminds us, ended in the convictions of 6 Trump advisors and found the Trump campaign welcomed and exploited Russia's election interference. So the pro-Trump fan base was misled again. And what does Fox do? They go back to calling the Russia collusion stuff a hoax. Lie, rinse, and repeat. Donald Trump is doing the same thing. Emphasis on the repeating. He just wrote a letter asking the Georgia Secretary of State to.
I mean, we can stop there. Look, I get really boring about this topic because I feel so strongly about it. But
like me and the Bernie Bros.
Yeah, but look. First of all, the Durham probe isn't over. Second of all, the stuff that was in it in that one indictment was pretty embarrassing for the media. Like, among other things, there was a pretty detailed portion of it that talked about how the Alpha Bank server story that was wrong got out, and how the reporter in that case sent a 2,500 word segment of his piece to basically paid political operatives, Oppo researchers to have it approved. And this was how they fact checked a piece that turned out to be totally wrong. And everybody, including CNN, reported that Alpha Bank story, which was one of many fiascos from that period. So really, you're going to get sanctimonious about that? I don't know. It's, they don't have any self-awareness about that stuff.
Yeah, none. And I think we should go out on, just to leave people on a positive note. You know what I would love to do, Matt? See a little Charles Jacko.
Oh, okay. Let's do that. Yeah.
Do that. We haven't.
You can take a look at right now. Hi, Atlanta. We're about to have a short course in missile identification. This is a Scud. You can tell it by its distinctive label. Now, when the missile is launched, the first thing you look for is the plume sticking out behind it. Now, when you detect this, you can tell it's been launched. Thank you.
Graffiti on it? Yeah, show me graffiti.
Larry King show or bust.
Well, anyway, that guy's amusing.
Yeah, it would be great if we could talk to him sometime.
I know, wouldn't that be great?
Well, Cheryl, it was almost exactly 2 hours ago when the sirens went off here in Saudi Arabia. Where we are in eastern Saudi Arabia, there was no problem. Now, let me just size my mask and fit it for a second, just like I always do. Stand by, please. Are you saying all clear down there just now? All clear. All clear. Está bien was a false alarm. Got that, Atlanta? Standing down now. I'm gonna go get my hamburger and my coffee.
Good. We just got the all clear.
All clear. Every time I order something, this happens. All clear. Thank you.
Yeah.
See, I can't even get my friend to bring me a fucking coffee.
But that's even better. It's like every time I order food, somebody shoots a missile at somebody.
Yeah,
like it's so inconvenient.
Annoying. I know,
right?
it's so annoying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone said Jacko fix of the week. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was great. All right. Well, so that was Monday morning.
Yeah, that was Monday morning. Yeah.
Which is really
about Sunday morning. Someone asked how they can donate to the site. Just go to just become Substack subscribers, right? I don't know if there's a one shot way to do it, but you could do a yearly support thing of the Substack at usefulideas.substack.com.
I think you can actually give any amount of money you want.
You can give any amount you want. There you go.
I think so.
There you go. Yeah, you can. Yeah. So.
But and we're gonna. Well, we have another announcement about some of that stuff coming. But anyway, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you again later this week.
Yes.
And
thanks for everyone for tuning in to the super chats and all of that stuff. And yes, signing off. Got to get my veggie burger.
That's right in your coffee.
And,
all right,
yes,
take care,
subscribe
folks.
Subscribe to usefulidiots.substack.com and youtube.com/usefulidiots, and subscribe and rate and review on iTunes and wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Take care.